or maybe maybe I'm already live. I don't
I
know.
think you're already live.
If I am, hey guys.
Hey, everybody. Which group are we live in? Clients Every Day?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it says says Kevin Hutto is now live in Clients Every Day. There we are. I'm watching this.
Awesome. I need another computer off to the side so I can see this stuff. It's at my office that I had that we're getting rid of so I can work at home with my family.
There you go. How great is that?
How's that for smooth segue into our topic for the day? Which is working with family. Is it possible to work with family and maintain your sanity? On this debate, I'm going to take the side of no.
Oh, great. I've actually had more negative experience with family than you have.
I don't know.
We both have.
Have you ever fired your father?
You know what? I've never fired my father. So that why don't we start with that story? Let's start there.
Oh man, that's starting off on the personal side right there.
My father fired me. How about that?
Oh, there you go.
Let's start there.
Both sides of it. That's right.
Yeah, I was 18 years old selling real estate. I got my real estate license because I worked as a bellman in a really nice hotel in South Florida that closed every summer because, as you would say, it was hot as balls there. So they closed down. And my dad, I had enough money saved. I had a Corvette. I was 18 years old, living, spring break land in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was just going to party. And my dad said, hey, if you're going to live in this house, you need to have a job. And I was like, well, what about you? You don't seem to do very much. How about if I work with you? He said, hey, go get your real estate license and we'll do that. So I got my real estate license. I'll give you the abbreviated version.
He's looking over your shoulder like he's in the other room.
I know, right. Well, my son's in the other room. He's actually working for me in the other room.
Yeah.
And so I remember, I did, and this is part of my 5 dominoes, right? I did what my dad told me to do. Man, I got in every morning. I cold called expired listings. I cold called FSBOs, and first month I made like 5 sales. I made all this money, man. I bought a brand new Corvette. I just got it out of my hands as quickly as I could. You know how that is.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was my 2nd or 3rd month in business. I went on this listing appointment and I visited this little old lady and got her listing. It was like a $67,000 house. This is, in the 80s. And I, in those days you had like 6 documents for someone to sign. So I got her to sign all the documents. I went back, turned in the listing to my dad, and one of the documents wasn't signed by her. So he says, you need to get this signed. And I was like, I don't want to drive all the way over there. So I signed it myself.
Uh-oh. What's the statute of limitations on forgery?
Right. I say it was like it was like a
35 years ago.
Yeah. It was like a lead paint certificate or something,
Right.
So I signed it myself.
Well, and of course there's no lead paint down in South Florida back in the 1970s.
Of course not. And of course, it was obvious to him because I turned it in like an hour later.
Oh, wait a minute. It's right in the other room.
That's right. So
that's great.
He called me in the office and he said, who signed this? And I said, I did.
She did.
I was honest. I told him I signed it. He said, I'm sorry, Rob, I'm going to have to let you go. And he fired me.
I signed it.
What? I should have been fired.
He gave me power of attorney. Implicitly, I just assumed power of attorney.
So, literally, I think I was fired for like 6 hours, but it was a good lesson. I was like, yeah, I was lazy. And so I immediately drove over to her house and I got her to sign the actual one, and he put the listing in and he rehired me. Anyway, so
that's
now
great.
You fired your dad, which is a little different.
Yeah. So I bought a golf course years ago, like 6 years ago. And the reason I bought it was it's the golf course that I actually grew up playing as a kid, and or one of two courses. And the reason I bought it was twofold. One, because I kind of got suckered into it. I made the guy like what I thought was a low ball offer, and he said, "Take it."
Deal.
Yeah. And I was like, that should have been a bad sign.
That was a bad sign.
I was coming from California, making an offer in South Carolina.
Yeah.
So what I thought was a low ball offer was
That's right.
Not a low ball offer.
And I think one of your wealth dynamics, things you shouldn't do, is negotiate.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's not one of my minor profiles.
Definitely not.
Negotiator. So it's that, and then my dad had just retired. He owned a machine shop for lots and lots of years, and he was, he's 65 at the time, 64, 65. So he was getting to the point where lifting heavy pieces of metal was not necessarily the smart thing. And as a kid growing up, we spent a lot of time at this golf course and in another golf course that hey guys, I'm on a Facebook Live right now with lots of people watching. Working with family.
Are those your employees, your family members right there?
So anyways, long story short, I grew up going to this golf course with my dad. Our friends owned this other golf course in town, and is my dad's best friend. And we had great memories, like, working on fairways together and greens and, all these amazing things as a kid. Like, I was cutting greens when I was 12 years old and driving a tractor, and my dad would do that. And like, they were always working on projects out there, and it was like a fun thing. So I thought to myself, buying this golf course would be like this sort of return to that.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
Yeah, and a great thing for him, as far as a place for him to just sort of have, like, in my mind, it was like he could just run it into like oblivion, and
to the ground.
Well, that's the next phase. So mentally, I thought that he would go out there and just thrive. But running that machine shop, my dad didn't have many employees for like the last 10 years, like him and maybe one other guy. And so what became painfully obvious to me in the first few months of him being out there is that he's not great with people.
He doesn't have what we call the social skills.
Yeah, well, what it was is, honestly, in retrospect now, looking back on it, I see it differently than I did at the time. But, over the course of 1 month, he cussed out my customer, like several of my customers, who, like, these guys would play golf 3 times a week, and occasionally they'd sneak and get an extra 2 or 3 holes, like, because their match wasn't settled or something or whatever.
Yeah.
And he saw that as stealing from me. Yeah. And so he like let them have it. And I was like, Dad, these guys have been playing out here for a long damn time. Let's not run off the few customers that we've got, because this guy wasn't selling this golf course cheap because it was doing great.
No,
it was in a down cycle at the time.
Yeah.
So then the next one was, he felt like all the employees were stealing from us because they were like, not 100%. Like, he wasn't getting 60 minutes out of every hour from every employee.
Well, and they're in their 80s, for crying out loud.
I know. Well, like, there was one guy, this guy, Jason, who had like spent the day down in a hole, working on a pipe that had burst when the sprinklers burst. And Jason dug that hole by hand with a shovel. And it was big enough for him to stand in, and like only his head stuck out.
Oh, that's horrible, man.
He got out of the hole, and there was not 1 square inch of his body that was clean. He was bald. He's a younger guy. He was probably only like mid-30s. but there was like top of his head to the bottom of his shoes had mud all over them, and they're in the shop at that point, and Jason hadn't washed down the mower, and which was a job he was supposed to do earlier in the day, and he and my dad got into a verbal altercation about Jason not washing down the mower, and I believe there were curse words exchanged in both directions at that point.
So he cussed out the patrons that had been playing golf there for 20 something years. Then he cussed out a guy who was like slaving away digging holes all day long
for $9 an hour. So that's.
I think he cussed out you too, if I'm not mistaken.
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to find good guys for $9 an hour these days.
Yeah, it is.
Even in South Carolina, to find a guy that's not on meth for less than $10 an hour is pretty damn hard. So who's not in their 70s or up, right?
Oh gosh,
you find some great guys in their 70s, but it's hard to put those guys in a hole. That's the downside.
Well, it's not hard to put them in; it's hard to get them out.
Yeah, they don't get much, and they don't get much done in the hole either. So anyway, so then, then I'm in the, hang on, let me tell Josh, we're going to be a couple minutes late. I think we got a couple.
We got 8 minutes till 3.
Yeah, I know. He's like, is that him or somebody was messaging me? I don't know. So anyways, so then the last thing, we were in the clubhouse one time and the superintendent had this guy that helps us with the grass, a guy, Chip Martin, that we've known since I was a kid. Like Chip and I started playing golf together when we were 10 years old. So I've known him 37 years. And Chip was like 14, and he was superintendent at one of the courses at Pinehurst and a course in Hilton Head, and he's a superintendent at a course in Greenville now, not Greenville, but like near Greenville now, near Clemson, and he's helping us out with the grass, and he had a plan that we needed to follow for something that we needed to do, and my dad disagreed with the plan, which was awkward because my dad hadn't worked at a golf course, since 1989, but Chip is working at a golf course every day. And so I backed Chip on the big decision in front of all the guys.
Oh no.
And I felt like I had to do it because, we needed Chip to help us because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Apparently running a golf course was harder than I thought. One thing we found out. So then that led to my dad not being happy with me publicly. He cursed me in front of those guys, which was challenging because these are the guys that I had to lead into that hole, down into the hole. And so
it's a great story.
Yeah, so I went to the parking lot with him at that point, and we had a talking to, and I just said, listen, I need you to not work here anymore. And
I'll keep paying you though.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I need you to not even come out here anymore. So,
that was DEFCON 4 right there.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, so that was a hard thing too. So anyways, so
funny, man.
So I'm 0 for 1 at that point with working with family.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So the reason that we are actually even talking about this is because I have been working at home quite a bit the last month because I have this office in Newport Beach. I also have a boat, which I like to work on. But it's been hot. Like for the last week, especially, it's been hot. So working on the boat's not as fun when
it's hot.
Yeah, when it's in the 80s outside in Newport, you know, it's not as fun. I know that doesn't sound too hot to some of you guys out there in, you know, armpit of Alabama or something. But
way to really pull people in right there.
Yeah, I'm just saying when you become a California sissy like we have, and your blood is nice and thin, then you really feel the heat more. As you can see, I've got a fan blowing now, and it's let's see what it is here today. Well, I live at the beach, and so we don't have AC in our house, but we do. So it's 77 today, and we got to have our fans running because it feels pretty hot. But anyways, on the boat is just not even doable right now. And so I've been working at home, and my daughter has been helping out a little bit. And, you know, it's been a challenge because what I found is that I do not command the respect from her that I do from my other employees. So I found
so there's that.
I found out earlier that she was frustrated with me because I was wasting her time, and I was put on notice, and so I felt like that was not the real world experience that she would get from another employer. So I offered for her to easily be able to get that experience elsewhere, which then brought my wife into the employment puzzle because my wife did not feel that I handled that situation properly. Which that was a bit of a challenge as well, because it took me like a good hour to unwind all that stuff. Right in the middle of the workday when I was like, you know,
and that's more of their time you're wasting.
That's right. I was wasting their time. I wasted a good hour of their time today.
Unwinding this.
That's right. From 1 to 2, I wasted an hour of their time. And what was crazy is I was like on the brink of solving the problem with string theory. And I lost it.
You and Sheldon.
Yeah, that's right. It's like there's this, you know, the straw man problem. I was about to put together. I had it and then I lost it. It's like, what do you do? So
yeah, it's not coming back either.
No, it's gone for good. Universe, world, lost out today. What could have been.
World, you're welcome.
That's right. So I don't know. My experience has not been great. I do enjoy the idea of it, and I enjoy the romantic vision of it. I'm apparently not very good at it.
I don't know that if it's a matter of being good at it. I mean, I've had all my kids work for me. Actually, Cole's working for me right now. But I can tell you this. I know we have another call. Maybe I can give a positive notation towards this. When Cole, he's 17 now, and of course I have him doing what he likes, which is video editing and stuff like that for our content, which he's actually really good at. He's crushing it, which is so cool to see. And he's probably the most entrepreneurial of all my kids, which that's also cool because he's already talking about having his own business and buying a Ferrari. So fantastic. Right? Of course, when I was 17, I was talking about buying a Corvette. I didn't even know there were Ferraris at that time. So I get it.
Right.
And I did buy a Corvette at 17. So there you go. But when he was 14, I had him cold calling old leads and just trying to set up like a one-on-one strategy session with our author development coaches like 2.5 years ago. And he was,
I remember that.
He was terrified, but he did it. And he tells me to this day, he goes, Dad, that was like a transformational experience. He goes, once I did that and talked on the phone, which, most teenagers are terrified of the phone anyway. a lot of millennials are, to be honest.
Yeah.
He talked on the phone to strangers, some of which didn't want to talk to him. He was like, Dad, I could do anything. I'm like, oh, cool, man. There you go. So, that was a positive experience. That ended well. And here he is working for me again. He's like, no more cold calling though.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I think we often look back. Hang on one second. Sorry.
No problem. We're live though, right?
I know. I just got.
By the way, I can see in your glasses that you're on other screens doing stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks. Yeah. What I'm doing is I've got our actual Facebook Live up, but the problem is I've got like all these people messaging me all at the same time with questions about their Facebook ads.
Funny.
I've got a client who his former ad manager was in Slovakia and created their ad account in Slovakia.
Wow.
And just their ad account just got shut down for the day because they hadn't verified their VAT status. And yet the client lives here in the United States and doesn't have a VAT status because he's like, what is VAT? I was like, dude, I think that's up to you to figure out.
It has nothing to do with running your ads. That's for sure.
Exactly. So anyway.
Maybe we could do a whole Facebook Live on the benefits versus the challenges of having your account out of Slovakia.
Right. I think most of the benefits have to do with if you're advertising stuff that's going to get you banned anyways, like Viagra,
right,
crypto, or any of those things.
Go right to Slovakia with it.
That's right. Go to Slovakia. But if you're advertising like regular plain Jane stuff, then
real stuff,
you can probably stick to the good old US of A.
Wow.
Make America great again. I'm going to put that Trump. I'm going to put that Trump. If we're getting rid of the office, the Trump thing's going right there.
That may cause some problems in the household too.
You know what? I got to say, I'm going to have to fight for that. I feel like that needs to happen. But yeah, I was just saying, like, it seems like sometimes things that we look back on as life-changing, fond things don't all. Yes, son? What? Okay, thank you very much. So there you go. Like, even though they might be great lessons that changed your life later, the during phase is still possibly very painful.
Very unpleasant. That's right.
Very unpleasant. And the challenge with that is that even though it, I guess the challenge for that from the perspective of the business owner is, does that unpleasantness disrupt the business to the point, like how much money are you willing to sacrifice to teach your kids a lesson?
Yeah.
I think that's the big question.
Yeah.
Because I do think in some ways that you sacrifice productivity by dealing with your kids in a way that you probably wouldn't deal with other employees.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like taking the time that I did. I'm about to block this guy, and he pays me a lot of money. Taking the time to be, and I guess that's the existential question, right? It's like, this is your kid, this is your family. So the extra time, like it's provider versus parent.
Sure.
And where's the line of demarcation there of what's the most important role for you at that point?
Yeah.
And also, like, how much do you help them as a parent versus how much do you lose as a provider, and which one's the most important? And that's like the hard question, right?
That's not the only hard question. The other hard question is, how much do you really help them?
That's what I mean. How much do you help them versus
right? I mean, my two older boys, have experienced the most growth in their lives by supporting themselves, getting out of the house, having real jobs where they're accountable, where they're responsible, where they have to set their alarm clock on their own, get to work on time, manage people, because they're both have management style roles, even at a young age, small roles, but still there's management involved. I mean, they wouldn't, I'm too easy on them. You know what I mean? Like, I love them, and I want them to be happy. And this is a way that they can do something cool for me that I can find a use for. Right.
Right.
In reality, it's like your discussion about, one of your kids wants to help you with YouTube, and you're like, that's really not a priority for me right now, but
well,
right?
that's what sparked this thing. That's
I know.
That's
I know.
That was it. I was wasting her time because I was not willing to drop everything and figure out our
YouTube. Yeah. Exactly. Talk about your YouTube strategy, which at the moment you don't have one.
Yeah. It's not high on my priority.
When they're working, and have real responsibilities and real duties and real discipline, it's like, it's a game changer, man. I mean, it's like, oh, hey, this is real life. Oh, wait a minute. So yeah, how much do you help them? At the same time, I love Cole being here. I mean, I love, watching him work and doing something he enjoys, and also getting a feel and a vibe for what it means to be an entrepreneur, because he's probably more going to go down that path than the others. And I'm not looking for it to be with me, but I'm certainly able to help him. Right? I mean, that's what we're paid to do, is help entrepreneurs to grow their business. I could certainly help him. So it's kind of cool, to sit back, and if that's the path he chooses, awesome. If not, hey, I'm good with it too.
Yeah.
It's all good with me.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. We better fly, huh?
So, yeah. This is good. I think
it's fun.
There's probably more to talk about here too. So maybe we'll do another one, and maybe bring on some more of the, clients everyday people in the membership to the coaching group or whatever, to see what they think. Because certainly maybe we just suck.
Well, that is not only possible, but likely.
All right. Well, cool. Let's close this out, and we'll talk. You and I are about to talk to another guy.
Yeah, we'll jump on the other call right now.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, guys. See ya. Bye.
See ya.